How you doing, Bren?
Doing great. What's up?
Nothing much. It's a sunny day here in Florida. It's really hot as balls, though.
It's turned into fall here, something you won't experience.
What I hear, yeah. Well, yeah, I'll only experience it if I go back now.
You can
Yeah,
laugh at me raking leaves for the next
I
3 months.
know. I know. Yeah, I do. I did get stung by some red ants, so we each have our own perils.
Red ants. That is not good.
I know. Yeah, it was pretty traumatic for me because my toes were swollen and burning. It was a great weekend.
All right. Well, I hope you don't have to amputate or anything
I
like
know.
that.
No, I think we'll be good. But yeah, we're here to chat about Andy Ramage, who's the co-founder of One Year No Beer. And I don't know you want to tell him what the episode number is, but yeah, I got to chat with him because he actually was on the Rich Roll podcast, which is where I first heard him, and listened to his story and was really intrigued. And then reached out to him, and he was like, "Yeah, let's do this," which is actually the name of his book, his next book. So, but he was a really awesome guest. I really was intrigued with his story and really resonated with his story for that matter. Um, I don't know. I'm hoping our audience will feel the same and be inspired by him.
So he was actually a professional footballer in the UK, a soccer player, which is kind
He
of
was,
amazing. I don't know
yeah.
what ended that. Maybe it was an injury or something like
It was an
that.
injury. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I said in his bio, it's an injury, and then he ended up working at a stock brokerage and kind of living in the fast lane. It feels like. Um, so they were whining and dining clients a lot and things like that. And he therefore was spending a lot of time, drinking as like a form of entertainment. And I don't know, he started looking into how to optimize performance. And this is like when he's still at this stock brokerage, and he decided he was going to cut out alcohol for a certain amount of time. And that time continued to extend because he was just feeling really great. And he ended up with this platform called One Year No Beer.
Yeah, and he talked a lot about in his story about how hard it was to stop drinking alcohol in his business. Because
Yeah.
apparently, like, the whole thing there was to wine and dine clients, and that's how all the companies were doing it.
Yeah.
And they didn't think it could be done any other way, and nobody wanted to even change it because I guess they were liking it. But he would just, like, so much of the week be like 25% and just
Hmm.
feeling awful, not getting good sleep, not
Yeah.
feeling like he was performing well at running his company. And when he cut out the alcohol, a whole bunch of good changes started to happen. It wasn't
Yeah.
just the alcohol cutting out, but I mean, that kind of started
Correct.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were other health related things that he tried and did, and that were part of that journey for him. But yeah, the alcohol, I think, was a main one that sort of spiraled into other areas that focus for him. But it was just such a predominant part of his job, and he realized it probably was affecting his performance, that it was a big deal for him. And then, I actually talk about this in the show, that it feels like a big deal for me, quite honestly, in many cases. Not now because I'm consulting, and so I'm not having to necessarily be out with clients all the time. Although even when I am now, there is always the like, let's go get a drink, and I'm like, I don't really care. Like the last drink I had actually was at this client event, and I started feeling really jittery, like probably halfway through a glass of wine, and I was just like, ugh, like my body was like, do not put this poison in me. Literally was how it felt.
Yeah.
And so I understand from his perspective, it's like that's always the go-to. And you start to think about, whatever, even myself, like, we're trying to have a baby. And so that's not actually in part why I've not enjoying drinking at this point. It's more like because I'm not having to be out with colleagues and clients anymore. It's like I have room to just not have to do that and indulge in that way. And then I started realizing that I didn't miss it, and it does taste like poison to me like oftentimes now. But I think similar it was like a similar thing with him where he was just like, oh, like this is a huge part of what I have to do. And I don't want to do it anymore. And sometimes that comes with a stigma. And I definitely can feel that, sense that, when people are like, when I'm like, oh no, I'm okay, I'm not going to drink, I won't have any more. Sometimes it's like, oh,
Yeah.
turning down a drink. Yeah.
I mean, drinking is so normalized in our culture
Hmm.
that it's almost like you're a weirdo if you don't do it. But the
Yeah.
fact is, alcohol, it makes you make bad life choices. You can put yourself in dangerous
Oftentimes.
situations at
Yeah.
best. And
Hmm.
then the next day you feel like you have the flu.
Right.
So it's like, why is that so great?
Right.
Why is that the only way that we can have fun? And I think it's
Yeah.
cool to have dudes like Andy out, like questioning that openly and saying, you know what? What if there's a different way? Maybe we
Yeah.
don't need to, drink in order to have fun. He had a great story I read in an article where he described, dancing on a dance floor sober for the first time and like
Hmm.
being okay with that. And that's when he realized he
Hmm.
was really sober. Like,
Yeah.
then he could actually enjoy himself again and not feel like they had to, to drink in order to dance.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad when you think about it that like so much socially can be tied to this type of a beverage that we drink that we
Yeah.
make okay somehow, but really when you think about it, there's not that much okay with it.
I know. I know. Yeah. Um, I also like think about some folks that I know. Actually, Brene Brown, I'm not sure if she was an alcoholic or if she just decided she was never going to drink again because she didn't enjoy it. I don't know. But she posted on Instagram something about her being sober for 20 plus years, I think, something like that. And typically, like you don't post that unless you are an alcoholic. So I don't know totally Brene's story, but you also think about people like that who maybe are trying to get sober or are struggling with addiction in some way, and we're just putting them in social situations where we're feeding that rather than actually being supportive or helpful or even mindful of maybe someone not wanting to drink as a social activity. And I think that's a really tough, like, I remember earlier this year, when I was still in the corporate job, I was at a conference actually, and it was like the CEO and this client that we were kind of wining and dining, and he was like, "Let's all go get a drink," and I really didn't want to drink, honestly. And I was like, initially, I was like, "No, I'm okay. Like, I don't need anything." And then he was like, "Nothing." It was sort of this like question of like, "You're not having anything." And so then I was like, okay, fine. Like, I'll have a margarita. And I kind of like sipped that, but I didn't even really want it. But it just became a feeling like I needed to do that because I was being questioned about it. So I can't even imagine if you have an addiction, opening up about that potentially with like coworkers and just having people kind of look at you like you're crazy because you just don't want to have a drink with them.
Mm-hmm.
Or just don't want to drink, not with them, but you just don't want to drink.
Yeah, I mean, I like how Andy draws the distinction. He's like, you don't have to be an alcoholic in order to want to not drink anymore. Because I think
Yeah.
there's like that heavy stigma where it's like,
Yeah.
if you do say that that I don't drink, the people are like, oh, well, does that mean you're an alcoholic? It doesn't
Right.
necessarily mean that. It just
Right.
means I'm making a different choice. I feel better without doing that. I
Yeah.
think it's cool. We should support people who want to make any change, shouldn't we? Like, rather than judging them.
Totally.
Why is it
I
the
mean,
one
that's
if
what soul
someone
magic.
said, like, if I told you, if we got together, I'm like, oh man, I'm on a plant-based diet. Like, would it be cool to like judge them and be like, well, why aren't you eating meat?
I
Like
know.
that wouldn't be cool.
No.
You should
No.
support people's changes, especially if they're trying to
Yeah.
do it for a healthy reason.
Yeah.
But in
Yeah. Yeah.
reality, it doesn't always happen. So you got to be
Hmm.
strong and know why you're doing
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's awesome that Andy, who's this like, you know, super masculine, tall white guy with an English accent, was a former
quite an amazing
soccer player, football
accent, I
player.
would say.
Yeah. Yeah. That he's advocating for this because I think also it takes away that stigma of, males needing to continue to feed into something that maybe they don't want to do or can't do or, whatever that might be.
I mean, those are the real change agents in our society who question
Yeah.
things. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Do I
Yeah.
have to do this?
Yeah.
And this guy is like, he's a thought leader because he's flying the flag and saying, you know what? You don't really have to. It's cool
Yeah.
if you don't want to. In fact, like, you can join my tribe. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he's
Agreed.
got another cool book coming out. I hope you can get him back on the show.
Yeah, that's my hope. I want to get a copy of his book for that matter and actually read it before I have him on. But yeah, his next book, Let's Do This. I can't remember. Is it April of next year?
I thought he said December.
Is it December? Okay, so it might be this
definitely
year.
months away. But
Yeah, this one's
everybody
away.
look up Andy Ramage. But before you do that, go to our website, goalmagic.co. And it is episode 80. And we have called it Want to Unlock Your Best Self, Change Your Relationship with Alcohol with Andy Ramage. So look for episode 80 on the Goal Magic Show or wherever you get your podcasts and check that out. And then Google him. Check it out if you want to get off the beer.
Yeah, check. And for people who maybe want support with that or want to keep talking about it, we actually have a Facebook group. And what have we named it? Backstage Pass? God, I'm going to forget now. Terrible. One moment, please.
I can't remember either.
I think it's Backstage Pass. Yep, Backstage Pass, the Goal Magic community, where we chat about some of this stuff. So we share things about our episodes or fun things that we have found that we want to let everyone else know about to support them in their own transformations.
Yeah, whatever you're stuck with, we're here to help.
Yeah.
That's our mission.
Awesome. Always fun catching up with you, Bren.
Oh, I love it.
Likewise.
Right. See you next
time.
time.
All right, friends. See you later.